إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Why do you have to do this? Because all of you are brothers. All of you are sisters. This is why you have to do this. And this, honestly, this verse is so superb. I've explained this particular verse numerous times. And every single time I ponder it, there's so much benefit to be taken from this verse. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. And I'm not talking about the whole concept. I'm not going to bore you with that. You already know about all of that, right? The Ukhuwah, Islamiyah, Muslim Brotherhood, and this and that. You know all about that. But I just want you to look at the verse and how much emphasis Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in this verse. Linguistically, Allah says, إِنَّمَا. إِنَّمَا is an article which emphasizes whatever is preceding at the exclusion of any other possibility. So whatever is being said is being established and affirmed, and there's no other possible understandings. طيب? So that's one way of emphasizing. Whatever is being said, that's it. There's no more to the story anymore. Al-mu'minun, al-alif lam, when it enters upon a plural noun, mu'minun, it makes it general. That's amongst the ways of finding generality within the nusus al-shara', within the passages of Sharia. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, verily all believers, without any exceptions. So nobody make an exception, please. Sometimes there's people, they'll tell you, you know what? There's an exception to the rule. That innovator down there, we don't talk to him. See that Arab, the Paki over there, we're not going to talk to him. There's an exception to that rule. There's no exceptions. Every single believer, كُلُّكُمْ لِآدَمْ, every single one of you is from Adam. وَآدَمْ مِنْ تُرَابٍ. That's for racism. But I'm saying now there's a racism in terms of theology as well. There's none of that. Every single believer without exception, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala establishes ukhuwah for them, brotherhood. But check this out. Allah doesn't say just any brotherhood. If you know anything about Arabic, you know the word akh means brother. And the word akh has numerous plurals. You can say akh, you can say ikhwan, you could say ikhwah, you can say akhun. All of those are plurals of the word akh. Akhun is not that popular. The popular ones are ikhwan and ikhwah. So Allah particularly picked out the strongest possibility. The word ikhwan means like, you're my, نحن ikhwan, we're all brothers, right? We're all brothers. Isn't that so? That's ikhwan. Ikhwa means blood brothers. As Imam al-Jawhari, rahmatullahi alayh, the famous lexicographer, mentioned, that ikhwa means blood brothers. So Allah is saying your brotherhood is so strong, it should be so strong, and that's how I want it to be, that you guys are like blood brothers. He didn't even use the word ikhwan. He uses the word ikhwa. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Verily. Now let's translate the whole verse. Just these few words. Verily, all Muslims are like blood brothers, and there's no other possibility. So don't tell me, that guy, he's from that group, he's not my brother. That sister, she's wears her hijab wrong, she's not from my sisters. She's your sister and he's your brother. Get with the program. So long as you remain within the folds of Iman. And I include in that, really with all due honesty, in terms of the brotherhood, to a certain degree, even Shia are included within that. Because so long as their Shi'ism hasn't led them to a degree where they've left Islam, they are still considered mu'mineen. They're still considered mu'mineen. They're still considered believers. So there is a certain degree of brotherhood that's even there within that. Wrong. Every single sect, every single group, so long as they haven't left within the fold of Islam, they're mu'mins, they're believers. So they fall under the generality of this verse. And I showed you how accurate the verse is because of the fact that Allah brought the article innama, which establishes everything to come with at the exclusion of any other possibilities. And I showed you the fact that Allah said al-mu'minun, which has every single believer therein. So there's no excuses for us to say this person, not our brother, but get with the program. Allah is telling you, you guys are all brothers. Al-mu'minu lil-mu'mini kal-bunyan yashuddu ba'duhu ba'da. A believer for another is like a wall. Is like a structure. Every single portion of the structure emphasizes the other structure. The structure shouldn't be pulling itself so that all of it falls down. That's not what's supposed to be done. Every single person is supposed to reinforce the structure of Islam. فَأَصْلِحُوا. Then if you have any problems, then fix the problems between your brothers. Good idea. Turn them all on. فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. So fix the problems between your brothers. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. And fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. So that you may be given mercy. This verse that we're just about to read is now the third time or the fourth time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Remember I said all of the verses in the surah, you'll find a lot of them are addresses to the believers. He's addressing you again, O believers. O who you believe, do not laugh. لا يسخر قوم. Don't let a people laugh from another people. Don't let a group of people laugh at another people. عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. Perhaps the people that are being laughed about, they're better than the ones that are laughing. But hold on, he says قوم. And then after that he says وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاء. And not women to women. Why does he say قوم in the first one and nisa in the second one? Because the word قوم essentially doesn't mean people. It means men. وَلَا أَدْرِي وَلَسْتُ إِخَالُ أَدْرِي أَقَوْمٌ آلُ حِصْنٍ أَمْ نِسَاءٌ. I'm not sure, and how am I supposed to be sure whether al-hisn are men or women? That's what the person was saying. He was trying to make fun of them by saying, I'm not sure if they're men or women. When a man calls another man a woman, he usually is making fun of them, right? He's saying you're weak, physically. So that's why men use that term within one another. So the word qawm essentially does not mean people. It's used in the Quran oftentimes to mean people, but over here it's very clear that it's not being referred to. People are not being referred to over here. The word qawm essentially means men. The reason why the word qawm is used for men is because of the fact that it comes from muqawama, from sort of, not retaliation, muqawama, give me a word for it in English. Resistance. That's where it comes from. Because usually when a war breaks out or something like that happens, who's supposed to be the one resisting? It's supposed to be men. That's why the word qawm is used for men. And some people have speculated that it is a plural format of the word qa'im, which is also possible. But anyways, the qawm that is being referred to over here are men. O who you believe, do not laugh. Let not the men from amongst you laugh at other men. And the translation says people, that's why I corrected it. عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُونُوا خَيْرًا مِّنْهُمْ. Perhaps that these men that are being laughed about, they're better than the ones that are laughing. وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاء. And not the women from women. Don't let the women laugh from women as well. But look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say laugh when He spoke about women. Why? He didn't say mock. Don't let the women mock. He just said, and not the woman from the women as well. The verb is already mentioned, right? So it's understood. But there's always a reason. Nothing is understood. Every single time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions or, does a slight manipulation, the wording which is normally people are not used to it, there is always a reason. Why did He say, وَلَا نِسَاءٌ وَلَا تَسْخَرْ نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاءٍ? And don't let the women laugh from women as well. He just said, and not the women from women. Because He wants you to stay so far away from mockery that He said, since I've already mentioned it once, I'm not going to talk about it again. And you may say, how do you know that? Because look at the rest of the verse. Didn't He say, عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُونُوا خَيْرًا مِّنْهُمْ? Perhaps they're better. Isn't that also understood? When it comes to women, but He mentioned that again, because perhaps the other women that are being laughed about are better. That is the reasoning why you're not supposed to laugh. So the reasoning He gave it twice. But the hukum He only gave it once. The ruling He only gave it once. Because the reasoning is what's going to make you stop. But the hukum, He doesn't even want to make mention of that word again. وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاءٍ. And not women from women. Perhaps those women that are being laughed about are better than the ones that are laughing. And Allah says qawm. Why did He say rijal? Didn't we say resistance? Because it takes a man not to laugh. It takes someone that can resist. That's why He uses the word qawm and not rijal. Not the other word for men. Then why does he say nisa? There's other ways of saying it too. Dhukur inath, male and female. Why does he say nisa? Because the word nisa comes from the word naswa. And naswa means to leave off action. So Allah is implying that that woman that's sitting at home bored, she's going to laugh. Be careful, be doing something. Nisa comes from the word naswa, which means tarkul amal, leaving off actions, not indulging in something. The man, he uses the word qawm because he needs to resist. It takes a man, it takes some strength, some mental strength for you to be able to not laugh at people. Because your nafs is telling you, shaitan is telling you, your hawa, your desires are telling you, every single direction is pointing at laughing. When you sit at gatherings, what happens? People are laughing. You have to laugh. You either get up or stop laughing. And for the woman, he says, look, if you are not indulged in the ta'ah of Allah, in the obedience of Allah, you don't have things to do, that's why he uses the word nisa, naswa, tarkul amal, leaving off actions. If you don't have things to do on your plate, watch. You're going to call some of your friends and say, you know, her nose, it's too long. You're going to do that. But that's if you're not doing anything. If you're busy and you're engulfed in the ta'ah of Allah Azza wa Jal, in the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal, you don't have to do that. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. And do not find faults with your own people. Look, Allah says, and do not find faults within yourselves. Does anybody go and find faults within themselves? Have you ever done that? Did you ever sit down to yourself and say, you look very ugly. Your nose is bigger than it should be. Your mustache is not trimmed. Your hair, Allahul Musta'an. Does anybody do that? Why does Allah say, don't find faults within yourselves? Because Allah is telling you that if you find faults within people, they will find faults within you. It will be the result of you finding faults within people. And He's also reminding us that all of us are yourselves. As in, believers should always be together. لا تلمزوا أنفسكم. If you're mocking another believer, if you're making fun of another believer, then you're the one that's poking a hole in that wall that you're not supposed to be poking a hole in. لا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب. And do not call each other with nicknames. You notice every single verb that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used over here, He used the regular tense. But when it came to tanabuz, He used another tense which implies mutual action. Tafa'ul. So if I do it, you're going to do it back to me. Taqatul. People are fighting mutually, not one person. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. Go ahead and give mutual advice to one another, right? وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Go ahead and give mutual. Tafa'ul. That tense has this connotation of the action being done mutually. So Allah says, وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Because as soon as you start saying names to somebody else, what happens? They start calling you names back. Right away. As soon as you give somebody a name, what happens? Right away they go back to you and do the same thing. So He knew that that's going to happen. People will call each other names. When you call somebody a name, He'll call you right back. And also because Allah is saying, even if someone is calling you a name, try not to do that. Even if somebody ends up calling you a name, let it go, just let it pass. بِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ. Amazing verse. Allah says, how bad is and how evil is the name. The whole time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about the tongue. Don't mock. Allah says, don't give names. Don't find faults. Whenever you're finding faults and you're mocking people, usually you're calling each other names, right? So Allah says, if you end up doing this, then you'll have a name for yourself. What's that name? بِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ. How bad is and how evil is the name of fisq, after you were a believer at first. How bad is that name and that fame of being a fasiq, after you used to be a mu'min, after you used to be a true believer. بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ. After you were a believer. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَتُبْ, and whoever doesn't go ahead and make tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jal, then remember, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. These are the people, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. These are the people who will be the transgressors.